Well, we are now looking ahead to the possibility of interest rates going up again this lunchtime. Let's get the thoughts now of the Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, who joins us now. Good to talk to you today. Thanks very much for joining us. When we look ahead to what's possibly happening at lunchtime, this is grim news for many people in the UK, isn't it? They are going to feel worse off again by another interest rate rise.
Well, first of all, I really understand how difficult it is for people seeing interest rate rises. Of course, it's up to the Independent Bank of England to make decisions on that. But it is crucial that we act to control inflation, because it's only by making sure that we get inflation down that we can grow the economy and we can reduce the cost of living. And that requires action by government. That's why we're making sure we live within our means, we don't spend excessively, and it requires action from the bank. The more we can bear down on inflation, though, the quicker we can get interest rates falling, which will be crucial to make sure that people don't continue to have that pain. And indeed, if you look at the inflation numbers, there are encouraging signs that it is starting to fall.
It is starting to fall, but the Prime Minister said he wanted to get it down to 2% by the end of the year. It looks really unlikely he's going to meet that target, doesn't it?
Well, the target the Prime Minister set was to halve inflation over the course of the year. I'm confident that we'll be able to do that. And of course, the long-term ambition set out by the Bank of England is to get back to the target of 2%. And I'm confident they'll take the action to deal with that and to deliver on that target, because it's only by getting inflation back under control, we deal with the cost of living, which is proving so challenging for everyone, and we're then able to start reducing interest rates.
But it's not falling at the rate that the Prime Minister wanted to. You know, it's slipping down ever so slightly, but halving it, I mean, it's just not going anywhere near that.
Well, I am confident that we will deliver on what we pledged to do, to halve inflation by within the year as set out. And the government is playing its role. We're making sure that we're bearing down on public spending, making sure that we keep spending under control. The Bank of England is doing its part as well. Of course, this is challenging, and your viewers will know that we're both suffering the consequences of COVID still, whether it's supply chains, and we're also Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But against that backdrop, we are making progress with reducing inflation. I'm confident that number will continue to come down.
But we're an outlier, aren't we? I mean, the war in Ukraine has affected everybody. Europe's not got the same, Europe's looking at sort of 6%. America's looking at 4% in terms of interest rates. Why is Britain the outlier?
Well, in the UK, we have a combination of two things. So in the US, they have a lot of their own energy supply, particularly their own oil. So that leaves them much less exposed to Russian oil and gas prices. That's why their inflation number has fallen more rapidly. But we also have the tight labour market that the US has, but that Europe doesn't have. Now, I could go through and trade different numbers from different parts of the world, but it's a combination of those two factors. The fact that we have a very tight labour market in the UK and we have these high energy prices, that means that inflation has proved to be stubborn. But what you can see in the latest numbers is that the numbers are starting to come down. The government and the Chancellor in particular and Prime Minister are determined to play their part, making sure that we don't spend beyond our means. The Bank of England's playing their part, and I am confident that combined we will be able to deliver on that core pledge, one of 5 pledges the government has made, to deliver on the priorities of the British people, and that's our absolutely resolute focus.
OK. Just wanted to ask you a quick question about President Trump. Of course, you'll be aware that he's facing these extra charges today. You spoke at a pro-Trump think tank last year and said that the UK and the US can't afford to indulge in woke psychodrama. What do you make of Trump's drama now?
Well, the democratic processes of the United States of America are entirely a matter for the people of the United States, and you wouldn't expect a government minister to comment on that.
Are you a Trump supporter, though?
I don't back one side or the other. I say it's for the American people to make their decision, and the British government And British government ministers will respect that decision and will work with whomever the American people choose in their election next year. And it's been the case that throughout my time in politics, we've worked with Republican presidents, we've worked with Democratic presidents, and indeed you've seen close working relationships. I saw a very close working relationship firsthand between President Obama and David Cameron. Equally, we've worked closely with Republican presidents throughout the years. So that's the approach we've always taken as a government.
You don't think Rishi Sunak would have a view as to whether he'd prefer dealing with Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Well, I think that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, would respect what is a strong and stable democracy in the United States. The people of the United States are perfectly capable of choosing who they want to be their president, and they certainly don't need British government ministers like me saying from Hartlepool how I think they should be voting in that election that will take place next year.
OK, well, let me ask you something about something a little closer to home. David T.C. Davis, the Welsh Secretary, has sent out a leaflet to constituents asking, would you like to see a traveller site next to your house? Do you think asking that question is racist?
No, and I think that what David T.C. Davis was doing was highlighting the failure of the local Labour Council to carry out a proper consultation on this. That is entirely what people would expect their local members of Parliament to do. He's standing up for his constituents, making their case for them, and I totally support his right to do that.
OK. We should, of course, you point out that you're in Hartlepool, you're wearing a very fetching high-vis vest, and you've got what looks to be a wind turbine. Is that behind you? I'm not sure. But you're talking about the risk register today that the government is setting out. This is about what the government would like people to understand about the kind of risk that we may be facing. Can we actually really prepare for the unexpected? I mean, it's nice to be able to, isn't it? But the point of the matter is that when something does happen, like COVID, it is pretty much always unexpected.
Well, the first duty of government is to keep people safe. And I think one of the things we can do to help keep people safe is to identify the range of risks facing the country. And that's what the risk register does today. It identifies up to 90 different risks facing the country. And my whole experience, for example, during the COVID pandemic was the more open and transparent you were with people about the risks we were facing, the better people could plan. And that's precisely what this document is about. It's about for businesses, it's for voluntary organisations like the Red Cross and others to see for the first time in such a high level of detail the risks facing us. And then the government is taking action to address those risks. And you said about me being here, yes, I'm here near Hartlepool. Behind me they are building the world's largest offshore wind farm. Is going to produce enough power to power 6 million houses. That's helping us with energy security, which means that we are more resilient to face some of the risks identified in the risk register around the security of energy supply. That's government in action.
Just final question. Of course, Rishi Sunak is off on his holidays. Don't know if he's taking a private jet or not. But you are going to be in charge while he's in California. Are you going to be running the country from Hartlepool, or are you going to be going through the drawers in Downing Street?
Well, the Prime Minister is always in charge. He's keeping a close eye on everything. He's taking boxes and taking lots of phone calls. I'm minding the shop in the UK, and actually it's great to be doing so from our northern office in Darlington. It's the Treasury HQ. I was working most of the day there yesterday. I'm back there tomorrow, and then I'll be doing that for the rest of this week, and then next week I'll be back down in London working out of my office in 70 Whitehall, which is directly next door to 10 Downing Street.
OK, give that fantastic brick train at the station away from me. Thanks very much, Oliver Dowden.